covering all your favorite parts of the 50-yard fight. This is the Inside the Walls podcast with Zach Kyleman and Jim Mernier.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of Inside the Walls podcast, the final walkthrough here on a glorious Friday, right before an action-packed NAL weekend, week 4 in the National Arena League. I'm Jim Mernier. Alongside me, 900 miles away, Zach Kyleman.
Hey, how we doing? Still hanging in there. Voice is a little better,
Recovering.
It's getting back there, but I could still hit pretty low right now. But I'm not going to talk like that the entire show. I'm just going to throw you for a loop every now and then as we're doing this edition.
No, we don't have Bane as a special guest as the character for Batman, but we did yesterday on Turf Talk of Jonathan Bane, quarterback for the Carolina Cobras, and Coach Reginaldo as well. I wish we had someone from the Carolina Panthers. That means we make it a big time. But again, check out last Wednesday's show, of course, and check Thursday's show. Been an action-packed week here on the Inside the Walls podcast. Also, follow us on YouTube, Twitter, NationalArenaLeague.com, Instagram, Discord. Everything's the links in the description. And remember, like, subscribe to the YouTube page. If you are new to us, if we get to 100 subscribers, someone gets 2 free tickets. And also, click the bell because of great saying, great reverend will say, it builds morale. Before we get into this week's breakdown of the 2 matchups in the National Arena League, we have to break down our power rankings. Little switches here and there, maybe from Zach, especially from me. My number 6 team switched. And no, it's not the one that everyone thinks it is going to be. No, it's not the 0-3 Sharks.
All right.
It is going to be the San Antonio Gunslingers. Why? They didn't play this week. My power rankings are a little tricky. You get punished for not playing sometimes. It's like the BCS system, like the coaches poll. It's like the college football playoff rankings. The committee that beat Indianapolis each week during the college football season.
Yep.
And they punish teams that are bye weeks, but war teams for winning influent games against Sanford or Chattanooga, those type of games. Yeah, that committee. You can say that's me. Number 6, I have San Antonio because they didn't play. And also, Orlando impressed me. They went blow for blow against against Albany. Get my words straight. They play Albany last week. They play Carolina this week. Let's do this again, Jim.
Mm-hmm.
I have them ahead at number 6 because of that. And I have Orlando up higher in the rankings because of their performance overall in last week against Albany. You went blow for blow against Albany. And yes, we discussed what happened on Wednesday, what happened, the flag. We know that. We've already got a lot of feedback from that. Sorry, still true. That's the reason why I have San Antonio at number 6. It's what have you done for me lately in my power rankings? And you don't play, you don't move up, and you get a possibility of getting jumped by teams who've played during the week. And unfortunately, this week they're number 6. Who's your number 6, sir?
Yeah, I mean, I've still got the Gunslingers at 6 myself. I mean, bye week doesn't really win you anything. You didn't lose the bye, so that was good. I didn't expect that, by the way. I'm just continuing the jokes that we had at the end of last episode. But look, I'll be frank. They get multiple weeks to lick their wounds and kind of get things in order for their next contest coming up here. So obviously they have some time. But they're going to be sitting there for a minute, getting to watch everyone else play some football for the time being. So they were definitely my 6. Orlando doesn't change for me. They're still my 5, actually. I don't know. I see the close games that, Jacksonville's playing. That's the only one that could be there at 5 for me. But, they played the top 3 in our last week's power ranking, close or in overtime. They did it again this past week against Carolina. They're 1 or 2 plays away. Orlando, I got to give them props, though, man. Putting up 61, pretty much being pound for pound with Albany throughout most of that contest at home. It takes some licking, and obviously adjustments that are made by Jeff Higgins and his crew and getting Rakeem Cato and company in sync. That was nice. Nonetheless, though, San Antonio, you beat a squad that has since readjusted, and really up to this point, you've played only 2 of the top 3 in our power rankings that we've had in recent weeks. Carolina pretty much handled you guys conveniently, and Albany dispatched you by the third quarter. Controversial or not, I'll give you that. So I'll need some more for proof to go against what my number 4 was still. Obviously I'm hinting at that, but I will wait and hear if you maybe change things up. I don't think you did, if I can tell, but your 5 still.
My number 5 is the team that was number 6 last week, and
Okay.
that's the Orlando Predators. I have them moving up just based on recency bias. You scored 61 points against Albany last week, and no matter what happened, if that play was reversed or not during last week's game, I think we stated on Wednesday's show that you were going to run out of gas anyways against Albany. They just had too many guys that were just cooking. Castronova and also Darius Prince, who most likely, when the show is out, I think might be winning back-to-back Ironman of the Week awards. That dude has been everywhere. I know he did win. I think specialist or no offensive player this week, I think was the award that came out.
Yeah, it was Prince's award this week.
So still
so far.
a great achievement. Prince is playing lights out. Castronova the last 2 games is like jumping up the charts for possibility of debate about MVP consideration type when we get to that point later in the year. But Orlando, one thing that I liked about Orlando is they went blow for blow against Albany this week. Just ran out of the gas, but I saw a lot of maturity in Cato. He did settle down, and I did see Brandon Fuentes, Larry Beavers arrive, becoming a bigger weapon for Cato. Lonnie Outlaw doing Lonnie Outlaw things. He's going to get his catches. But it seemed like Orlando's offense clicked more, and they rose to the occasion or played above what they are supposed to be. Because certain teams in certain leagues, they play above what they usually are because they're playing somebody bigger than them and they want to prove them wrong. I think Orlando had a little bit of that case against the Albany Empire to start last week. So I got them at number 5. My number 4 pick is, unfortunately, Jacksonville Sharks. 0-3, but you're 0-3 and you've lost 3 games by 1 possession. 2 of them were in overtime.
Mm-hmm.
The Sharks are 1 to 2, maybe 3 plays away from being a 3-0 team. That's how close they are. They went toe-to-toe with the Carolina Cobras this past weekend. Not really ran out of gas, just made too many mistakes down the stretch run to rebound against Carolina. But you're telling me that the Carolina Cobras and the Jacksonville Sharks are only a 6-point difference and Jacksonville's still trying to find themselves? It tells you the potential that the Jacksonville Sharks have when they get everything clicking. And they have a roster that they can, snap on a dime and win 6, like you said on Wednesday's show, win 4 in a row. You think they're going to be 3-3 here in a couple of weeks and just feast on the mid part of the schedule. I would love to see at this point, 6 weeks from now, we're talking about a 6-3 Jacksonville team. That'll be a complete day and night compared to what we start right now. But right now, they're still better than Orlando, in my opinion, and they're still better than San Antonio, in my opinion, just based on how they go neck to neck with the 3 best teams in the league. And we're talking about last 20 seconds in the fourth quarter. You're wondering what's going to happen because the Sharks are still in the game. They have not been blown out. They have not been blown out, or they have not won a game. So they haven't blown anyone out. So they keep you on your seats. Like there's a saying here in Jacksonville, the cardiac cacks, for the guys from across the street. They're the cardiac sharks. You have no idea what they're going to do until the very last possession. And we might see it again this weekend here in Jackson when they take on the Columbus Lions in the Visar Ventures Moore Arena on lovely Saturday night. Mm-hmm. And you're, sir, number 4.
Yes, number 4 for me is also the Sharks. Not really much I can say to move. Again, you play one possession game. You're down to an onside kick, as we talked about on Wednesday. What else can you really ask for? The only thing that really they messed up on was early on giving up that early turnover and flipping the script on them. Otherwise, we could be talking about an upset possibly, or even a closer contest than it was ending up in Greensboro. So I can't really move them down. Orlando did show out and score 61, but it is Albany who does show that they don't have as much of a strong defensive unit in secondary. So it's hard for me to move them down there, even with the win that they have on San Antonio. San Antonio is trying to figure themselves out, ladies and gentlemen. Just the pedigree of the losses that Jacksonville's taken, how close they've been. This is a team that, if you look at the bottom three in the league, they probably will get wins against Orlando and I would say San Antonio, even though the Predators might put up a tougher fight. If I'm being honest, I could be wrong. I want to see what, Robert Kent gets with more under his belt here, with more time with his guys in those bye weeks. And quite frankly, Rakeem Cato's progress last week with staying in the pocket and staying and following the arena way does show out. But I got the Sharks at 4. Another aspect of that, Mike Fafaul, I swear, guys, if he's not starting this week, I will be dead shocked, is all I can tell you. I was surprised he didn't start against the Carolina Cobras and make it a 2 Cobras or a 2 Shark QB battle that I was expecting it to be. They're number 4 right now, but I mean, Mike coming back to a system he knows there with Coach Burley. I mean, sky's the limit if you can get him in there and get him antiquated and get him with that home crowd, especially against the Lions. That'll be your next big test. Revenge game coming up. We're going to be talking in a minute. So they can be moving up the ranks. Well, they can be either moving up the ranks or possibly staying even there, depending on what we see coming up.
Yeah. I like your thinking. I really do. They come to think of it, Jacksonville has so much potential out of all the teams.
Yes.
But the biggest question mark then now, I hate to say it's the quarterback position. Is Malik Henry the guy, or is Fafaul going to take his spot as a starter and maybe switch something up? Like you said last week's show, maybe you needed something to switch up the spark of flair in the team. It could be the quarterback position. But we got to continue. We can't talk about the Sharks all day. We got so much more. Let's start continuing our power rankings. My number 3, Columbus Lions. 2-0. It's Columbus or 2-0 bye week. You can't drop them below Jacksonville. You can't drop them below Orlando or San Antonio. They're idle. Can't really say anything on them. Good off week. Survived another off week. That's another Gibson streak, apparently. But yeah, I have Carolina at 3-0, 2-0. Columbus at 2-0 at number 3. So really much not to talk about them.
I think you and I are going to have very similar top. Really, it looks like we will match up entirely this week is what it's looking like right now. Because I also got Columbus at 3. Look, here's the deal. They got 2. They're 2-0 right now. They got into the bye. They beat almost said Carolina. Hang on a second. They beat the Sharks. And of course they got a win against the Gunslingers over in San Antonio. They still need to play 2 of the top teams in the league. So I need a little more evidence here to even move them up a bit. Obviously they get a rematch with the Sharks. And again, if Jacksonville goes in with the philosophy or change that I think they're going to do, and you think that they're possibly going to do, then this could be a completely different game, and it'll be in the Shark Tank. So a little bit more of a test that we'll be getting this week for them. But right now, they're still sitting pretty at 3. And I still got, honestly, my top 2 stays the same from last week, because I got Albany sitting pretty at 2. They showed off exactly what I was expecting from them against Orlando. And I approved again that Sam Castronova is playing much better than he is last year, whether it's the roster, whether it's the tools at his disposal, whether it's the new setting, you name it. He's shown out now 2 straight weeks that he is going to be their guy moving forward, most likely. And there's good reason for it. Dude can move around the pocket well. Dude's been able to make some gunsling passes when he's needed. And of course he's got, Darius Prince. He's got Dwayne Hollis. He's got, when Antoine Grant gets healthy, mind you, he'll have Grant in that, of course. He's Lumpkin in there who can run the ball pretty nicely, not as a traditional arena back, but someone that you can maybe jet sweep out of or get much more of a shifty in between the tackles type of runner. He has a lot of weapons at his disposal that they can allow themselves to outrun the competition if they need be, and I'll even admit Prince, for as much as I knock that defense, he's really been their, one of those he's been one of the top Ironman guys in the game. I mean, we've mentioned Jermon Forston on Columbus, of course. You got guys like Zach Brown, or of course, Travion Long over there with the Cobras we've been talking about in a minute. But I mean, he's been up there with some of the best, even with that defense giving up gobs of points. But Albany's too right now. Pedigree of win as well, and who they've lost to this season, can't really move them behind the Columbus Lions as well. It's just hard to do that right now.
Yeah, my number 2 is the Albany Empire as well. Albany showed that even with injuries on their team, like they were out with Ken Magruder and they were out Antoine Grant, and they look like they didn't miss a step. That's a symbol of a team that is firing all cylinders. Yes, they have one blemish on the record right now against the Carolina Cobras, who, well, shockingly, it's our number one team. But yeah, Albany is doing Albany things, and we stated last week about how they're going to approach the Orlando game. Sure enough, Sam Castronova played lights out. Darius Prince is there every single play, and of course, you had guys that came out of you thought they were gone, but they turned out to be like go-to guys like Dangerfield and Dwayne Hollis.
That's right.
And they took the mantle of, okay, we're without Antoine Grant, let's step up here. And they did. Unfortunately, you're going to have a loser in every game. That's our sport that we love. There's a winner and loser. Unfortunately, this time around, it was Orlando, and Albany just feasted again. And with the win there, that got them a number 2. My number 1 is the Carolina Cobras. Basically, do we have to say the same thing like we've said the last 3 weeks?
We had an episode just yesterday. You can hear why asking why, because it's pretty simple, man. I mean, you heard Coach Rez on our last show, which you haven't, you should. I mean, they're figuring out and getting down how to best utilize all that talent, keep these guys fresh, and it's working right now. They're, as he said, they're still working out tweaks and kinks to that whole thing, just like several other teams are in the NAL, and how best to utilize Iron Man. But they seem to be one of the teams that have taken off smoothly with it. And not to mention, they already were stacked. They already had plenty of talent on the outsides they picked up. What's impressing me even more, and especially after we heard this week talking with Coach Rez and of course Jonathan Bane, is that Ziegler is the other specialist on that offense, which it's so weird to me, because we're kind of in our conversation with Chris Siegfried at the beginning of the season, it's like, well, yeah, you get a quarterback and you get like your top receiver, you keep those two, you keep one of them fresh so that he always is dominating on the other side. But the strategy to get your center, someone who has to be ironclad and getting the snaps back, making sure that line is set up, making sure he's reading the defense as well. Even with Arena, even though there's less personnel, you still got to read how that front's looking when you begin every snap. It's kind of genius, especially since Myers and Ings, even though I didn't know what to expect with them playing Iron Man. They both are contributors every week right now. Both are getting on the stat sheet with tackles, both are covering, and of course, both are getting in the end zone. So, in Ings's case, he's taking the ball back. So they're doing just fine. And the fact they're able to utilize Iron Man with their 2 top receivers is just that much more impressive.
Yeah, and it's unique when we were talking to Coach Rest yesterday, is you see teams with different perspectives of how to treat Iron Man, and he went with the guys who touched the ball the most, the center and the quarterback. They both touched the ball every single play. And that's smart decisions. Of course, the second is specialist is Bane and the backup quarterback. And if there's a chance that situations happen, at least you have a common center there that knows the snap count, knows how to set up the ball line. But it's just not the specialist. That's the reason why they're 3-0. They're 3-0 because they've handled everybody they've played. Yes, last week's game against the Jacksonville Sharks was a 6-point game. But did you believe that game was in any danger of flipping the Sharks' way? Hey, I'm the resident Shark fan. I didn't think that was going to happen.
Played out like a normal arena game with whoever gets those possessions first on each half. That's exactly what it happened to be there.
The Sharks killed themselves with penalties and turnovers towards the end of the game. Carolina did not. They survived and they got the win. It's first of 4 matchups. There's going to be plenty of time to talk about those 2 teams. But yeah, Carolina's number 1. Is it because of the weapons? Is it because of Jonathan Bane? No, it's because the whole team is just working together as one solid unit. They have that 1-0 mentality, and they're winning games. And you rather start 3-0 in the season than 0-3, because when you're starting 0-3, you got a lot of questions, and you're looking up to a lot of people. You start 3-0, you're thinking about, can we sustain this? What happens if we have a blemish here? Can we keep our success going? And right now, Coach Rez, Jonathan Bane, and the crew there in Carolina, and even the owner, they have something going there, and they're on top of our power rankings for going into week 4 of the National Arena League season. So, speaking of the number 1 ranked team in the NAL Power Poll from Inside the Walls, we got to get into the games. And starting off, we go down to Orlando, where the Carolina Cobras take on the Orlando Predators in week 4 action of the National Arena League. If you want to do like rankings like college football, it's number 1 Carolina taking on number 5 Orlando Predators. Even sounds better that way. Orlando is 1-2 on the season, while the Carolina Cobras are a perfect 3-0. Carolina again survived. You can say survived Jacksonville, but they kind of handled them. The scoreboard looked like they survived, but they kind of handled them. 3-0 into the season and entering a team in Orlando who plays by just visual, just looking at the evidence, much better at home than they do on the road. Big matchup. This game will be played on Sunday afternoon, 3 o'clock kick on YouTube. Not Saturday, ladies and gentlemen, on Sunday at 3 o'clock.
Sunday. Gotta remember
some Sunday football. Strange. I wonder what else plays on Sunday on football.
Very good question.
Exactly. They have national in their name. But it's going to be a pivotal matchup in this ordeal. Can the Carolina Cobras start 4-0, especially with 14 straight season? Like what Coach Red said yesterday on Turf Talk, they do have a bye week, and it's after the semifinals of the playoffs if they make it that far, which is kind of a competitor that he is, especially if you're a coach, you got to have that mentality. Some key things to see in this game is, does Orlando make the adjustments that are needed to get this game to be a competitive score? We saw this game a couple weeks ago in Carolina, and Carolina jumped on them early and put them away early. This game was not competitive in the second half, and it looked like Orlando didn't belong on the same field with Carolina. Now the venue is switched. Now we're in Amway Arena, which last week, per different reports, between 2,000 to 3,500 people showed up to the game in Amway Center on Saturday night, of course, a loss to the Albany Empire. This week, they need that same fan base as they play against, again, the Albany Empire, not Albany, but the Carolina Cobras. Excuse me. I got Albany stuck in my head, ladies and gentlemen. The Carolina Cobras are taking on the Orlando Predators in Amway Arena. So you fans in Orlando, get your tickets now. Call your ticket office. Pack that building as you can. Big matchup, rematch of this series. Can you split the series, or does Carolina do the 2-game sweep in Carolina? Key notes in this game I want to state, Zach, is can Orlando be competitive? Can we see that same mentality from last week? Or is Carolina just going to bring the same Carolina self like the previous 3 weeks into Orlando?
Well, if I'm Jeff Higgins, there's at least a few things I want to take from that first matchup in Greensboro. Number one, give Rakeem Cato a little bit more time than last time. Something that Carolina did a great job with against the Predators when they were back at home is they were able to get back there pretty quickly. And Cato, he settled down last week. I'm wondering if he gets him out the same or similar time, or at least understands that he can settle down and deliver quick strikes as well if the Cobras start getting some early pressure. Because in that case, you don't need to always drop back and go for the long bomb. Sometimes it's best to just do a quick slant or get the thing out there, let your receivers do the work with yards after the catch. That might be your best game plan against the Cobras, especially since that front three really did make some damage against the Predators last time. I would not want to give any chances of letting Thomas get back there and wreak havoc and get another Defensive Player of the Week award like he did 2 weeks ago. So keep that in mind. Something else, you're going to have to find a way to get back to Jonathan Bane and cause some havoc, or Josh Jenkins, Brandon Fuentes, they're going to have their best days back in that secondary against DJ Myers, James Sumners, and of course, Kendrick Ings, because otherwise they will get time. As we talked, even Bane's only been hit and brought down once this year. And I know that arena, generally the idea is to get the ball out there quickly, but some teams have had some bad luck, Predators in general, in keeping their QBs standing upright. The Predators have had the Cobras have had no issue with that so far. Your best bet is to try and see if you found anything you can in that regard. Otherwise, Jenkins and Fuentes and the rest of that secondary, whoever's in there and back there, that's your job. Lonnie Outlaw, same deal. You got to be able to keep the things at bay, especially since it's not going to get easier. Darius Prince ripped you apart pretty good last week. Not going to lie, even without Antoine Grant. You took on people like Wayne Hollis and Jared Dangerfield back there. Now you've got a three-headed monster that's going to be able to do what it wants and has been able to do what it wants through the first 3 weeks of the season. That's going to be a key that is going to lock this down. Honestly, keeping Cato out from off the turf is your primary one, I think, because you can keep up with the Carolina Cobras and not give any turnovers away, refs or not, mind you. Jesus, please. I hope to God the referees do not do the same thing again this week. I just got to say, like, it was that bad. We have to bring it even into the preview show. Like, I hope to God that doesn't happen, because that demolished a second half for them. So hope your refs are ready to go again. Keep the ball off the turf. Keep the ball out of any oncoming hands of, like, say, a Trevante Long, like how the Sharks were unable to do that last week. Mm-hmm. And maybe, just maybe, that can give you some sneaking ways to maybe get an upset. That's all I'm saying. Those are what I would do. That's what I would do in this scenario. You gotta be able to keep pace with them. You got to be able to take advantage when you can. Otherwise, a defense is going to find ways to take advantage of your mistakes.
Yeah. You're preaching to the choir there, sir.
I didn't mention Zach Brown, but it's another one right there in the middle, who also has been punching in a lot of rushing touchdowns lately for the Cobras, mind you.
Yeah. And also, who's been very sneaky about rushing touchdowns is Jonathan Bane.
Yeah, that too.
He has like 6 this year.
He threw 2 of them last week, but he ran 2 in last week as well.
Yeah, and he ran 1 against Orlando, I think 2 against the Albany Empire. So, guy's mobile. But here we get to the part of the show where you got to make your selection, sir.
I do. And as you might have heard in my in kind of my phrasing of it, if, because I don't think it's going to happen. Look, I liked what I saw with the Predators last week. I'll say it again. We've said it even in the recap show on Wednesday. I like what they were able to do against the Empire. This is a different beast, though. This is a team that's much more established in that secondary, a team that won't let you have as many opportunities. Sure, it'll give up about 40 or so points, but that's about a good average, if not decent, for arena teams. That's what you want to keep your opponents at bay to, around that. And then you on the other side go and score 50 plus and you just outrun them at the end. I'm telling you, Carolina is that well built. They're going to get a win here. Do I think it's closer than their first matchup? Abso-freaking-lutely. I think Jeff Higgins is figuring out some things on what his roster does best. He doesn't mess around with the QB situation right now. He let Cato start from the beginning and didn't have to flip anything around, which is something we critiqued on earlier in the season. But it's not going to be enough. It's going to come up short to me. I think that the Cobras are still going to get pressure. I think you're going to see Cato still scrambling one too many times because that pressure gets back there. And eventually it's going to come out on top. Give me the Cobras here. I'm going to say we're going to say it's 61-50. It's going to be a 2-possessioner, but they'll crack. The Predators will crack the 50 mark, though. They'll do a lot better this time.
You are a person that I can trust. Your knowledge of the game is wise. And sometimes you have to have someone say, not so fast.
Ooh, not so fast.
But usually it doesn't happen with these type of games. It happens with the big type of games. But I look at this game and I look at Orlando and how they played last week against Albany. They showed me that they can play when they get everything going and don't get, screwed. Did I say that? Don't get a blown call to change the narrative of a game.
There you go.
But when you look at Albany and you look at their evolution of the team, you get the Carolina Cobras. The Cobras do not kill themselves. The Cobras do not shoot themselves in the foot with penalties, turnovers, and just bad play. They're 3-0 for a reason. And a lot of the games they play, they've won pretty handily. They played Orlando and Carolina earlier this year and dominated them. Does Orlando keep this game competitive? Yes. Are they going to pull off an upset? No. I think Carolina wins this game, but I think it's going to be more of a dog-out, drag-out type of game. Give me Carolina winning this game on one possession. 62 to 57, Carolina.
I'm always up for a game like that, one way or another. I hope they always come down to one possession. I'll be frank, so give me that.
And most likely I'll be watching the game live, tweeting and bashing people probably. No. Yeah. Like, see, I told you so. No, I think Orlando found something last week, and I think they will try to have that same narrative. Carolina travels to Orlando. The last time these two teams played in Orlando, it was a dry slug out fest. So I think that keeps the same narrative from last season. But I got Carolina winning this game. So moving on to the final game of week 4, only 2 games this week, ladies and gentlemen. It's the rivalry, chapter 14. The Columbus Lions entering the Shark Tank. Columbus 2-0, Jacksonville 0-3. The Jacksonville Sharks look to avoid their second ever 0-4 start as a franchise, but first ever in the NAL as they take on an arch rival from the Columbus territory, the Lions. Kind of strange, this game. Kind of different feeling. And I want to break this one down because, of course, I'm a Sharks fan here. Me and you both have mentioned it on Wednesday's show and previous on this show too. Is this the time that Jacksonville makes the switch to spark this team in the quarterback position? If Fafaul, my prediction is going to be based on who I think starts. And I think Fafaul starts this Saturday night in the Shark Tank and doesn't give it up. I think he starts, and he's the starting quarterback for the rest of the season. And I think it's going to be a debate. That's going to be a debatable question. But for me, I think Fafaul, there's no reason why you traded for Fafaul to just have him on the bench. That's just my opinion. The guy's won a championship with the Sharks. He's played with Burley's system. I think you just can't do it. You don't make that trade for him to just sit on the bench. For Columbus, they're coming in 2-0 after a bye week and win over in San Antonio. Gibson has 2 weeks to prepare for this team. They have 2 weeks to prepare for the Sharks. They've been preparing for, I guarantee now, since that trade happened for Fafaul, since Josh Blair, the owners, are good friends of ours. They've been talking about Jacksonville for 2 weeks now for a reason. And I think no matter what happens this week during practice, they're preparing for both quarterbacks. And it's in the Shark Tank. It's going to be interesting. But I just want to say that question. Is it time for Fafaul?
Well, they traded for him. It was quite a big deal for them to go and do that. They could have tried to, or they had chances possibly to pick him up in the offseason. Obviously, stuff happens, contract negotiations happen, and things begin to proceed in a direction post week 1, as we were thinking. I mean, it was possibly going to be there week 2, and things just didn't line up. And you don't go through this whole process of, we want to trade. Now we're pulling it back. Now we're doing it again to just have him go on the bench. Okay, Malik Henry, promising young talent for Arena, I would say. Guy still has some stuff to learn. As you and I have talked, showed progress last week in that he's making some strides, or the defense made him do checkdowns, one way or the other. Nonetheless, that's a learning thing that you're doing there in Arena. Hey, sometimes I need to take it and let my receivers do the work, find those angles, make the cuts. And I just think that you're 0-3 right now. You're going to have the Lions coming in. Now, credit, their last contest against the Gunslingers, one way or another, it looked a little shaky. Now, even with the penalties, even with the stoppages that were going on at Freeman Coliseum that night, it was looking a little shaky. I'm not going to lie. Still a solid unit. Still a good rematch, of course. It's the rivalry. It's a rivalry against the Lions, this time coming to the Shark Tank instead of in the jungle. I think you got to put Fafaul in. He's gotten an extra week in there now. He knows the system. I'm surprised. I'm again going to say I'm surprised he didn't start last week. Dude, I think is going to be in because I think they need to get off the mat and start getting some wins. You don't want to go 0-4. I know we said last week don't go 0-3, but you really don't want to lose 4 games. We know Sharks fans get rowdy. This is an organization that expects some wins. This is an organization that said, hey, we finished freaking 2-6 last year. Are you kidding me? Now we're already 0-3. We're 2-9 in our last 11 contests. We need to get going, guys. I think you put Mike Fafaul in to get a little more solidified QB spot behind center. And I think that your fortunes might change. I'm going to say it right now. I think they might be changing if you do that. Also, that crowd in the Shark Tank's looking pretty stacked from what I've been seeing with ticket sales. It might be even bigger than week 1.
It's the Shark Tank, man. They know it's the rivalry, man. It's chapter 14. They know when Columbus comes in town, Columbus brings their contingent of fans, and there's at least 6,000 to 7,000 fans in the arena for this game. But yeah, I don't know how to describe a rivalry. It's unique about rivalries. Throw the records out of the book.
Well, the history there between the two alone. I mean, you can just put it that. Like just the early goings of the NAL, them being essentially the founders of this league since 2017. I mean, that in itself and the stories of the championships and other playoff games they faced between each other. What else do I have to say there?
Yeah. So, who wins chapter 14 of Lions and Sharks? Zach?
I think the streak is broken and the Sharks will finally come back out on top. Home contest. I see Mike Fafaul starting in this role. They've come short all 3 of their last opponents. This time they get it done. I think you've seen all the things you need to tune up. You got the home crowd behind you, and you got the QB that's already won you one in the past and has a nice trophy sitting there in Jacksonville to call home for himself. I got the Sharks in this one. Give me a 1-possession game just because it's Columbus and it's Jason Gibson getting an extra week to prepare. So why the hell not? It's going to be a more defensive battle, though. I think it's going to be chippy. I think they're going to get at each other pretty good. And I think that Sharks come out on top 54-49.
You had to steal my thunder, didn't you?
Did I say
you had to steal my thunder?
The same score as you?
Yes, this is my same score and the same pick. You had to steal my thunder.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
That's it. We are done. The show's over. We're done. That's it. Yes. I think a change is going to be made this week to see if there's a spark between the atmosphere and the offensive game plan. You don't trade for Mike Fafaul for him to be on the bench. You just don't. I think he gets in and basically tells Burley's going to tell him, you go win the starting job. You can't win it. Malik is back in.
Yep.
I think he gets to start. He gets to start playing. He wins the starting job for the rest of the year. Same score as you. That's still my freaking thunder. I got the Sharks win a big home game against the Columbus Lions, getting that one win that they need to get in this 6-game stretch. So when the mid part of the schedule comes up, they can feast off of the 2 games against Gunslingers or 3 games against Orlando and a random Lions game again. Because if you look, I still remember that Lions week 2 matchup against San Antonio. I still see a lot of question marks from that game. Is Columbus improved since then? Jacksonville's knocking on that door, but are they that type of team that can finally bust through that door? And with that second part of that schedule coming up, that third matchup in Columbus might be one of those winnable games again, especially if Fafaul does come in and is playing what we expect Fafaul will be. And I'm intrigued about that. Just think of a Fafaul team going to Carolina in a couple of weeks, and especially that big matchup in Albany with the rematch/revenge game.
Remember, too, week 1, they had the lead in Columbus. It slipped.
Correct.
They grasped defeat out of the jaws of victory in that contest. They let anything happen in the fourth quarter that just let it slip away. So keep that in mind as well with this pick. They really could be 1-2 right now, quite honestly.
Or 3-0.
It could be 3-0 if we're really being honest. But seriously, out of all the victories, maybe 2-1's more realistic to me, because even that missed PAT, they had momentum at the end. Albany was letting things slip. They could be 2-1 right now, more realistically, if I'm being frank. But I think you're looking at that rivalry like, man, not only did we let that game slip away, but now Columbus is getting a streak that's building on us. We need to let this crap stop right now. Can't keep this going. There's Mason Espinosa even in there anymore. Now Darren Daniels still good.
Yeah.
But even Mason's not there anymore. He's not even harassing us. He's in DePaul. He's coaching offense already.
But here's the thing. Does the other streak continue? Does Devin Wilson make it 31 games in a row?
Yes. I ain't going to even question that.
Yeah,
he does. They'll do what teams have been doing, where they're going to not let him beat you deep You know, like Carolina, how they were blanketing and saying like, look, you're gonna have to really get a good catch or burn us one time. But no, I think if you and I predict and Mike's starting, he's already got a chemistry there with Devin from years past. They'll find a way to get him a TD. He's gonna get an open look. I just know it.
I'm gonna I can tweet this whatever during the game. It's the only game on NAL, so you'll definitely be seeing either me or Zach on the chat board on Saturday night. I'm going to even come and say this, that the first touchdown for Jacksonville Sharks is a Mike Fafaul to Devin Wilson touchdown.
Ooh, all right. Right out of
So the
gate.
streak continues.
If there are NAL prop bets, that would be something you could place on it if they were official.
Unless it's not like the AFL when the last year happened when they did the prop bets, like they did the over under for a game at 45. I'm like,
yeah. See,
do you even watch our sport?
You see, for that case, like last year the AFL was there. I love they did DraftKings, like the team draft ones. I love doing that stuff. That got me into that. So like I'd love to get that back going.
Yeah, but over under a 45 for an arena game? No.
Oh yeah, no. That's just odds makers not understanding our sport. Which hey, we talked with Coach, we talked Coach off the air as well as on. You know, got to get that thing back out there. People got to know arena's not gone, ladies and gentlemen, or at least the bones of it are not gone. It's still around. Like that's the deal.
Yeah, the over under should if they bring it back, the over under should start like at 95 and a half.
Yeah, that's that would like 95 and a half, like that would be like an average, you know?
Yeah.
Like I think like if you had, for example, like Carolina, if you did Carolina and Albany getting together, or Carolina and Jacksonville get together, or sorry, like Carolina, Albany, Carolina, Jacksonville, Albany, Jacksonville, I would be putting that sucker at like 105, 110, you know? Like, cause even like Albany, Jacksonville week 2, that thing hit 120 plus.
Yeah.
Well, 60 burgers, 1 point differential for a loss.
Can we get that back though? I'm not going to do it. That's a lot of work to do. Yeah, we need that back in the game. Yeah, some little over under action. What's the other ones they do for DraftKings? They do how many catches certain people can get. What do you think? Over under how many yards a quarterback will do? Yeah,
they do that. They do that for that in receivers or running backs. Although the running back ones will probably be like over under 20 yards. I'm usually taking the under maybe at that. Yeah. Put it like 15.
If it's not Ross, no. Yeah. Zach Brown taking the under. Yeah. It's very rare you get a running back in the arena game to get over 20 yards a game. Besides, I think Ross did back in the old AFL day where he got like 75 yards in the game. And that's because he kept breaking freaking 25-yard runs. So you're going to get that quick.
Right.
But that's all dreams, man. But we have reality this weekend. 2 big matchups in the National Arena League. Orlando, Carolina, Jacksonville, Columbus. This weekend, Saturday night at 7 o'clock, and Sunday afternoon matinee at 3. Is that matinee considered? Do people do matinees now still?
Late matinee, oxymoron.
Probably. The older generation may be screaming at us like, "Yes, we still do matinees. It's the cheapest way to go see the dang movies that you kids watch." I'm like, "Okay, all right."
I'd count it.
So yeah, NAL action this week, and ladies and gentlemen, remember you can follow them on YouTube at National Arena League /YouTube. Both games are live streamed there. We do not live stream games. We had a question to us this week: do we Inside the Walls live stream games? No, we don't. Sorry, because they have contract with YouTube. If we do it, we can get our page suspended. But will we be calling a game? I got a question from that too, from a personal account. Will we have a chance to call a game? The answer to that question is no. But I'll listen to the conversation.
I was gonna say, like,
is it James? Zach, you're good in the games. Which one?
Hey, we didn't even talk about this week. The return of Donnie and the phrase did make its way back.
A couple of times. It did. A couple of times.
That brought a smile to my face. If Orlando fans who listen to this, you really should pass along to those too. That we love their commentary. Yeah. I don't know. I get such a crack out of that phrase being right you are, Donnie, or right you are, or just right you are by itself. Like I don't know. It just I never heard it been used that way for a sports broadcast.
Well, there was some interesting, like we can go, like there was a moment in Caroline's broadcast that not really, it made me laugh, but at the same time made me kind of question the broadcast. A guy asked, like, this is like simple little question, like, what do you think about the performance last week and the outcome that happened last week? And the guy's like, I'm not here about talking about outcomes. I'm like, what? I'm like, that's your job. You're a color analyst. You need to know what happened last week. And it just made me laugh. But then they made a shout out to us. It's like, well, apparently we're still on the top power ranking team in some people's polls out there. I'm like, some people. Who else is doing power rankings besides us for the NAL? And I was like, well, you could give us a shout out. And it was cool. The Donnie part was that's a tradition that keeps on giving, like the Masters.
Keep that bad boy going. Seriously. Keep it going.
But overall, from broadcast quality, both Carolina and Orlando do good jobs. Broadcast teams around the league so far have been good. Much improved from last year.
Yes.
And each crew has their own thing. You have Gaz that always questions the fans on Twitter, on YouTube. And you have Jacksonville that completely ignores the YouTube broadcast because they are UPN here in town.
Mm-hmm.
You gotta expect that. Orlando,
wait a minute. UPN.
Not UPN.
How far back are we going?
they're owned by UPN. They own UPN now. Crap, it's my TV.
You mean CW?
Like CW. There we go. Woo!
I'm just saying. I haven't heard UPN in a while.
Oh, we can go back to TNN days.
I know TNN.
It's either my TV or CW, whatever. They're the same freaking broadcast. They just changed their logos. Oh, we're new now. No,
I'm just sorry. I had to stop
you.
Like I said, I haven't heard UPN in a minute, so that just kills me. That just kills me.
Coming up next, ladies and gentlemen, Star Trek Voyager on UPN. And followed by Friday Night SmackDown.
And later this weekend, XFL football.
Yeah. With the San Francisco Demons taking on the LA Extreme. That's the XFL from 2001, ladies and gentlemen.
That's right. That 2.0. Good God.
But yeah. Wow. We went through, but we talked about matinee. We talked about my old age, about UPN, and we talked about the 2001 XFL game. So yeah, we're going way back in time. Before you know it, turn on TV, you'll see Bon Jovi and you know what with the old AFL broadcast on ABC. That was also on UPN here in Jacksonville back in the day. I don't know why. But anyways, follow us on social media, ladies and gentlemen. We're wrapping this show up. It's been an hour. Get ready for games this Saturday. Follow us on social media, of course, on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and on nationalarenaleague.com. We're on there as well. Our videos are there too, as well. If you're watching us on the nationalarenaleague.com website, thank you. Appreciate it. The Inside the Wall podcast is the official podcast of the National Arena League, and our YouTube videos are there too as well. Also, we want to thank our fans, our listeners, and people who give us out questions to us. We really appreciate it. We had over 300 downloads of last week's shows alone.
That's what I'm talking about.
That's amazing. We never touch those numbers by ourselves. That's to you, the NAL community. That's to all the 6 organizations out there. Really appreciate it. Thank you for listening to Wednesday's show. Thank you for listening to Turf Talk this week, and thank you for listening to the final walkthrough here, getting you ready for Week 4 action of the National Arena League. Remember, follow us on all our social podcasts. Like, subscribe, hit that bell. It builds morale. And if we get to 100 subscriptions here on YouTube, 2 tickets to any NAL game of your choosing. Remember, 2 regular season tickets. We will do something special for the championship game if we get permission to. Remember, we just can't do it now. We actually got
to ask, you know.
NAL, yes. Can we? We'll think about it. It's basically how it goes. But for myself, Jim Renier here live in Jacksonville in the mobile studio, of course, and Zach Heilman in Indianapolis in his normal studio. Stay classy. Be respectful. Don't get any blown calls But also remember one thing.
Keep your voice clear when you're at games. Make sure you don't yell too loud, and don't be a jack out of the box, ladies and gentlemen.
Enjoy your weekend. We'll see you Wednesday.